Electric vehicles have been anywhere between reasonably and significantly more expensive than their petrol or diesel alternatives. Kind of changes with this one. It's the BYD Atto 2, a small SUV, fully electric, competes with the likes of a Chery Tiggo 4. In fact, it's got very similar dimensions to a Chery Tiggo 4, front wheel drive only, torsion beam rear end, kind of unfortunately I guess, but it is very cheap, $31,990 excluding on-road costs. It looks pretty cool. It's got a bit of a funky design to it, different colors you can go through, some rugged trimmings down below here. This is the base model. It does come with tires that I've never heard of. They're a bit smaller on the base model. These are 16-inch rims, whereas the top spec model comes with 17s. Good to see it's at least got disc brakes on the back. But overall, very good proportions, fits into this segment perfectly. Power comes from a 51.3 kilowatt hour battery, sending energy to a front mounted electric motor producing 130 kilowatts and 290 Newton meters. 0 to 100 claim is 7.9 seconds. And then with a full charge, you've got a WLTP range of 345 kilometers. And at first you might think that's a pretty small range. This is not meant to be for grand touring around Australia. This is meant to be as a second car perhaps, driving around the city, zipping about in the suburbs. Inside you've got BYD's latest design language for the dashboard and everything, but it does have plenty of physical controls. So you've got volume as well as your drive mode and an actual start button, which is good to see. I'm glad manufacturers are starting to include a start button, because as I've found with some EVs, as soon as you get out of the vehicle, everything turns off and resets. Not everything, but it's just a little bit annoying. I'd rather have a start button. I think it does come in handy. For example, get to the top of your driveway, check the letters, you've got your kids in the car and your wife or whatever, you jump out to check the letterbox, air conditioning turns off for that. You know, it's only a short time, but it just turns off, whereas I'd rather just be able to leave it on. So it is good to see that. It does come with twin screens as standard, even in this base model. Got a plastic steering wheel with the base model. Kind of feels a bit sort of cheap, but as they all do with base models, and it doesn't have the wireless charger of the top spec model either. Plenty of storage though. You've got a floating console, big buckets, cup holders, and plenty underneath the armrest. It is what I would call an upright cabin orientation, so you've got nice big windows, easily see out of it. It feels like you're in an SUV rather than a raised up wagon or even a crossover style vehicle. This feels like an SUV in a traditional sense. And up at the back, nice flat floor as per typical with EVs, which provides plenty of leg room even when you're sitting in the middle row. I mean, it's a little bit tighter, but actually the seat cushion is quite soft in the middle row. I mean, in the middle seat. Usually that's pretty firm, but yeah, plenty of headroom thanks to that tall orientation again, and excellent leg room as well. Like, my knees are nowhere near that seat. It is in my position. I'm 170 centimeters, so, but even if you slid that back to the end of the rail, you'd still have plenty of leg room. Got multiple pockets in the back of the seats as well. That's cool. So you can put your phone in there or whatever. Multiple charging ports, but then the single climate vent. I never understood this. People have got to fight over which way you want the climate to spray. And there's no center folding armrest, at least on this base model. Up at the back, manual tailgate, 380 litres. It's not bad for a small SUV like this, expanding to 1,320 litres when you fold down the rear seats. Got split folding seats as well, which is good to see. And then some storage underneath. It's pretty much a dual level floor almost. You've got a tyre repair kit there. Shame that there isn't a full-size spare. But that is usually the case with electric vehicles, because you've got the battery that runs almost under the entire length of the vehicle. For this event, we're just doing a bit of a short drive, a bit of city driving, a bit of highway driving, and out on the winding roads, and I'll try and do a 0 to 100 run as well. All right, on the road. So this is a brand new vehicle. It's only got 22 kilometers on the odometer. It's even got the protective film on the screen still. But yeah, this is an urban SUV. It's obviously not a grand tourer. 327 kilometers range, although it did say 345 when I first got in. Probably when I've turned the air conditioning on, it's dropped down a little bit. You've got different drive modes as well with the little switch there. Eco, see if that bumps it up a little bit. No, it didn't actually make any difference. But yeah, so 300 kilometers-ish range is obviously not for, grand touring or anything like that. It's for driving around the city and the suburbs, staying within your suburb, zipping about. And it is a very practical package, as I said. Like, you've got excellent visibility all around, very tall window orientation, little quarter window there as well, so you can see the gap there. But it just feels like a small SUV, but that's very manageable and very well proportioned. Yeah, so in these sorts of environments, it does have relatively soft suspension, but that is good because you're soaking up, you know, pretty ordinary city streets and so on, potholes and connections everywhere. And being electric, it is pretty much silent, so it's relaxing and calm. You've got good sort of punch off the mark as well. I'm still in the eco mode. But in some ways, yeah, it's more luxurious than an equivalent petrol model in this sort of environment. And as I said, excellent visibility, so I know where the end of the car is. It's easy to thread through city streets. This is not an intimidating vehicle to drive at all. Check out the indicator sound. It's pretty unique. I mean, all cars pretty much have the same sound, don't they? Like tick tock, tick tock. Whereas this has gone for something a little bit different. At first, it sort of was like, oh, what's that warning sound? But it's just the indicator. But yeah, I'll flick it over into the sport mode soon. And we're going to go up onto the highway, so we'll check out that range as it goes down. I'll leave it in eco mode for the highway stuff, and then when we get out into a winding road, I'll flick it over into the sport mode. It does feel a little bit sluggish in the eco mode at sort of speeds above, you know, 60 or 80 kilometers an hour. There's 80 speed zone here, full throttle. It does pick up. It's just not as sudden as the other modes, and yeah, not as sudden as what you might expect for an EV, I guess. But yeah, you can just switch it over to the normal mode. So 60 kilometers an hour, normal mode, full throttle again. Yeah, definitely pushed me back in my seat more suddenly, as you'd expect. It does come with lots of safety gear, especially for this price range. You've got lane centering assist, so it's keeping me in the middle of the lane. Speed limit warning and all of that. It actually gives off an audible warning as well, which I find annoying. I'm sure you can turn it all off. There's a drop down screen here for quick access, and you can customize it as well, so you can probably put some of the safety features. Oh, here we go. Lane centering assist, you can turn that off pretty easily. And engine sound simulator. We've also got speed limit warning we can turn off, I think, somewhere. Yep. Sorry, I'm keeping my eye on the road, but trying to angle the camera to the screen so you can see it. Regenerative braking, you can even turn off from there. But yeah, that is good to have a quick access menu dropping down from the top. So no matter what you've got going on the screen, you can always access that on the go, and you know where everything is. It is really good that BYD has been able to bring this out at a price which is pretty much the same as an equivalent petrol model. Like a Chery Tiggo 4 hybrid is roughly the same price as this. So that is great to see, because for most of the time, well, so far, pretty much every electric alternative or electric version of a petrol vehicle has been, you know, anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 up to $20,000 more than the equivalent. So this is matching existing model prices, which is great. Been driving along now for about 20 kilometers, and the range hasn't dropped as quick as the kilometers have been covered, if that makes sense. So that is good. And I'm in normal mode, and I've got the aircon on now because it's starting to warm up outside. So it is pretty decent at highway driving as well, even though it does have a small battery and a, you know, relatively low power electric motor. It can tour along the highway, and it doesn't just chew into the range. So we had 327, I think, when we're at about 22 kilometers on the odometer, and now it's at 313. Yeah, so that's only 15 kilometers or something like that. So it's actually giving me about 5 kilometers more range. I always like it when EVs provide a realistic range estimate rather than being too ambitious, but at the same time we don't want it to be too sort of pessimistic, otherwise, yeah, it might scare you that your range is dropping that quickly. This seems to be a nice balance. So I've done about 74 kilometers, so we started with the odometer at 22, and the range was 327, and now it's saying 266. So it is under the actual original estimate, which is good. It means it's quite efficient, and I've been driving predominantly on the highway in normal mode and with the air conditioning turned on. So I'll try it out now with the sport mode and see what it's like on a winding bit of road. Yeah, to be honest, I feel like the suspension is just a little bit too soft if you're going to be driving on roads like this regularly. And I don't mean that, this should handle like a Porsche 911. Jump into a Mazda CX-3 and that kind of proves that you can have sort of the best of both worlds. You can have comfort, but also sort of handling and dynamics as well. Whereas this, it just feels a little bit sloppy for my liking anyway. I would prefer something that's a bit more tied down, especially in Australia where we've got country roads like this with bumps and stuff and off-camber bits and corners that sort of get tighter as you go around. They're not consistent in Australia. I think body control and stability is, it should be a relatively high priority. I'm not talking about hot hatch handling, I'm just talking about general feeling behind the wheel. So this little test I like to do, I'll do it along here. Just sort of flick the steering wheel side to side, and I can feel the back end kind of wagging as I'm doing that. And obviously you don't drive down the road doing that, but again, get into a Mazda CX-3 or a Toyota whatever CHR or something like that, do the same thing, and it just feels very rock solid on the ground. It doesn't feel sort of uncomfortable, whereas this feels, when you do that, it feels a little bit uncomfortable, yeah. But overall, look, they've got good, it's a good suspension setup for this type of vehicle. If you're going to spend most of your time in the city, then you want absolute comfort. You want suspension range or wheel movement range, and this does really well. And the weight of this is actually not bad either. This is just under 1,600 kilograms, depending on the variant, which is pretty light for an EV. I mean, it's not as light as an equivalent petrol or diesel front-wheel drive SUV of this size, especially with a torsion beam rear suspension, which is pretty simple and not very heavy. Also interesting that most EVs I've found that are front-wheel drive do have a multi-link rear end, whereas this, yeah, as we saw, this doesn't. So it might be cutting a bit of cutting costs a little bit there, but again, where this is going to spend most of its time in the city, I think it's going to be totally fine, and it is comfortable, smooth, relaxing, and all of that. You just probably, it's not the best vehicle if you want to take it out onto a winding road like this all the time. But being in sport mode, I'll just slow down a little bit and try out the throttle response. Actually got a bit of a chirp from the wheel then. Yeah, definitely immediate response. It feels fast enough for this type of vehicle, so you could have some fun up in a winding road. Just if they tied the suspension down just a little bit, I think it would just make it a bit more suitable for Australian country roads and so on. We'll just test traction off the line here. No one behind me. Pretty good. No wheel spin, stability light didn't flicker or anything like that. So it does have a good balance between torque and the available grip from the tyres. We'll try and find somewhere now and do a 0 to 100 run and see what it goes like.